we're going to discuss those games. Then we're also going to preview the selection show in just a couple of days with plenty of conference tournament action as well.
Yeah, I think we need to get right into it. I definitely apologize. The voice is not as loud and clear as it has been. I was at the game last night, Britton. I know you were too. So definitely might be a struggle at some times today. But we're going to get through this, and we need to start off just by saying that the fight from this Valley team has been awesome. Obviously, Linn-Mar came out, and they never went away. It was about as even of a game as you can get. 58-56, Valley wins it in OT. Jaden McGregory, the floater, with about 2 seconds left, and that was all she wrote, pretty much at the buzzer, and Valley advances to the championship. And I think what was key for this game is just going inside with J-Mac, honestly. Like, when he drove the ball inside, they really weren't doing anything. They weren't contesting it a lot, and I think that helped his confidence. And just knowing with 8 seconds left, taking the ball the length of the court, he went right to it, and that's obviously his spot, and he stepped up and made the play.
Yeah, I think one of the big keys for this Valley team, why they've struggled so much in this tournament, it's two keys. One, it's the three-point shooting, which they have struggled on so much in this entire tournament. They only shot 3 for 15 behind the arc today, 30% in the first half, none in the second. And also it's the free throw shooting has been a struggle all year, especially into this tournament. They shot 2 for 2 in the first half and then went 50%, 5 for 10 in the second half. And I think to go 9 for, and then 2 for 2, of course, an OT, 9 for 14 in total is just not a whole stat. 64% is not where you want to be at to win games, especially when some of those free throws would have really helped them in the latter moments. Now, to the point, Linn-Mar also really struggled on the free throw shooting and the three-point shooting as well, but I think Valley is a much better team than what they've been playing, and that's one of the struggles that they've had all this tournament.
I don't know, Ian. I understand saying they've struggled because on paper they are more talented than Linn-Mar and Ames by a lot more than just a couple of points, which is how much they've won by. But you're coming in trying to win your third straight. I know it maybe sounds cliche, but you are going to get every single team's best. And also this team, again, if you can't shoot the three very well, you usually aren't going to be able to blow many teams out. And Linn-Mar hit 6 of 15. That's a decent percentage from deep. Davis Kern, one of the 4 Iowa Mr. Basketball nominations, as long as Trev and Yerock. Those two battled inside. It was awesome to watch. Trev had 15 points, 13 rebounds, a couple blocks on Davis Kern. They were getting after it. Davis Kern had 16 points himself, so both played well. But the championship game is tomorrow. I will not be in attendance, so this is the final Valley basketball game that I got to watch, and I think it might be the best Valley basketball game I've seen in my high school career. So a great way, I think, to end it. And how about that end to regulation? Down 2, Zay misses a 3, and then Marcus misses a tip. Zay misses a tip before Trev finally puts it in with just about, I think there was like 1 second left, but then the clock ran out. So, yeah, an awesome game, and the Tigers survive and advance, which is all they need to do.
Yeah, that in this point in the season, in the state tournament, it's survive and advance. You just need to win one game to move on and keep your season alive, and that's exactly what they've done. It's not been pretty by any means, but the talent is obviously there. I think Valley's on a whole other level than some of these other teams that they've been going up against, but they keep getting it done, and I think just the atmosphere, too, played such a big role in this game, being the last game of the night. Like, everyone was there, and both sides brought it, honestly. So hats off to everyone who came out, obviously. But I want to get into the championship preview just a second because I think it's a big one. And how about this? The Valley Tigers, to start the three-peat, they had to beat Waukee Northwest. That was 2 years ago, so Britton, our sophomore year. Cade Kelderman on that team, Price Sanford. It was a really good and experienced basketball team. And then, obviously, they beat Kennedy last year. Now looking to go 3 in a row. They got to beat the Waukee Northwest Wolves once again.
Yeah, the story's going to kind of come full circle. Waukee Northwest beat Cedar Falls, the number 1 seed, yesterday. And I know Valley swept Northwest in the regular season, but this is going to be a battle down to the end. I think it kind of comes down to 2 guys, Mac Heitland and Peyton McCollum, the main 3-point shooters for Northwest when Northwest played at Valley. Noah and I were on the call, and we saw Peyton McCollum. I think it was 0 of 9 or 0 of 10 from 3, and they were good looks. He's a fantastic shooter, so usually not something he does. He's going to have to shoot the ball better. And Mac Heitland, I think he's their 5th leading scorer, the Wolves, on the season. He led the team with 14 points, hitting 4 threes last night, so his shooting's also going to be a key. But Valley should have the athletic advantage once again, as they always do.
Yeah, it's just going to come down to who can shoot the ball better, who's going to come out hot, like you guys mentioned, and who plays the better defense, I think, down the stretch, who has the ability to block the shots or at least just put pressure on the shooters. I will say, like you mentioned, how every team that's going up against Valley wants to stop the 3P, so everybody's going to come out with the fire, and I think that's what they've seen. And Ames and Linmar brought pressure to Valley shooters, making them uncomfortable. And I was not personally at the game yesterday. I had another thing for school, but I was listening to majority of the second half, like up from like the 6-minute mark all the way through the end of OT, and it just sounded like, and then watching the highlights later, that Linmar defense, they were pushing the shooters who wanted to shoot threes. Zay and Kiki, they were pushing them outside and making them shoot either deep threes or highly contested ones. And I think Valley, they have to open up their offense like they've done in the regular season and allow their players to get time and just shoot the ball to their ability, which is what Valley can do. And then on the Waukee side, they just got to start hot, shoot the threes. Peyton McCollum, he's got to start hot, and I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, the inside battle between Urack and Rice is going to be another fun one to watch. Don't forget about Landon Davis, too. That one, Friday, 1 p.m. tip for the 4A state championship. Should be a great one, and love that Valley is back in it, taking on Waukee Northwest. But now that we've gotten through all that, I think it's time that we get into some college basketball, with this being our last show until spring break. Britton, start us off by, I think we're going to go conference tournament stories here, so give us what you got.
Yeah, so we're kind of going to preview the selection show, also taking into account what the conference tournaments can mean for the selection show over the next couple of days, starting off with the 1 seeds. I think both Auburn and Duke. Duke plays today against Georgia Tech. Auburn plays tomorrow against the winner of Ole Miss against Arkansas. Even if those two teams lose their first game, they are clinched as 1 seeds. I also think Houston, as long as they don't lose to 16 seed Colorado today, they're almost certainly going to be in for that one. But I'm especially looking at the SEC battle by 3 teams for that final one. It's Florida, Tennessee, and Alabama, who all have a shot. They all are off today and then play tomorrow in the quarterfinals. Really, it could just come down to whichever team advances further out of those 3 could grab that final one, which is going to be hugely important.
Yeah, and if we want to talk, obviously the 1 seeds is going to be a battle between mostly SEC teams, but the 2 seeds, we can go right into it. It's Tech, Alabama. They got Michigan State and Tennessee too. So, again, other implications too in their conference tournament. Tennessee, I think, has to win if they want. I think they could still battle potentially for a 1 seed, but Michigan State, obviously, Texas Tech, going to be looking to win the Big 12. And Alabama, I think, is in a nice position because I think they don't have to win it and they can still keep their 2 seed just because of how they've played and some big wins that they've gotten down the stretch.
I also think Michigan State is comfortably in at that 2 spot. I don't see them getting up to a 1 even if they win the Big Ten tournament. But also they will not drop to a 3 seed. I think they have the 2nd most quad 1 wins in the country behind Auburn. So the Spartans can be comfortable there. Any teams on the 3 line that can potentially move up to a 2, you're looking at St. John's. If they win the Big East, that team only has 4 losses still. Now, on the other side, they don't have a ton of great wins compared to the other 2-seed candidates. The Iowa State Cyclones are going to struggle to get up to the 2, but look at their resume. How much would it strengthen if you beat BYU, Houston, and then a team like Texas Tech in back-to-back-to-back days? That could be enough to get them over the hump. SEC teams like A&M and Kentucky are going to struggle to get up to that 2 line and could even fall further down to the 4-5 range if they lose today.
Yeah, I definitely think that Iowa State has a realistic chance of getting to that 2, honestly, depending on how some of these other 2s play. Like, if they beat Tech in the chip, I feel like you could swap them out depending on Tennessee plays. Like, they'll have a good chance to jump up, but they got to be consistent and obviously win the Big 12, I think.
And then we've talked all year kind of about how the bubble has not been strong whatsoever. But yesterday you saw a ton of great bubble stories, and today you're going to see even more. How about the Iowa Hawkeyes? They probably popped Nebraska's bubble just last week, and then yesterday defeating Ohio State in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. That eliminates Ohio State from tournament contention, so Iowa kind of playing as a bubble killer right now. Iowa State, if Cincinnati even had a chance at making the tournament, probably unlikely, but they're gone. And then in the SEC, you saw a ton of bubble teams in action. Arkansas survived South Carolina, so I think the Razorbacks can feel comfortable hearing their name called on Selection Sunday. Texas gets a win over Vanderbilt. Trey Johnson and company are most likely going to have to beat Texas A&M today to get in, but they keep their chances alive. And Vanderbilt, even with that loss, will most likely get in. And then you also saw Oklahoma, Georgia, another bubble battle last night. Oklahoma winning, Georgia will still be in, and Oklahoma basically confirms a spot with that one as well.
Okay, Britton, I want to ask you the question because you're kind of like our knower on the bubble. Looking at what Joe Lunardi, that's the one that we like to look at for the current bracketology, which was updated just a little bit ago. Looking at the last four byes and the last four in, you got Vanderbilt, West Virginia, Utah State, Oklahoma, and then the last four in, San Diego State, Indiana, Xavier, North Carolina. What team stands out to you that could either push themselves to not be on the bubble anymore and make it farther, or who could realistically drop down and let one of the first four out or next four out in?
Well, Vanderbilt, West Virginia, and Oklahoma, three teams in that last four byes category. It would actually just be Vanderbilt and West Virginia. They're done playing conference tournaments. So I think those two teams are going to be staying on the last four byes. Looking at the last four in, North Carolina, they have Wake Forest today. They're going to have to win that and most likely beat Duke in the semifinals. I really don't see a team that's 1-10 in quad one getting into the tournament without key wins. They went on like a 6-game win streak in the ACC against the bottom of the conference. I think Xavier and Indiana are two teams that have opportunities to move up the bubble. Xavier has Marquette today. Indiana has Oregon. If they get those quad one wins, each of those teams would probably work their way up into a bye.
Okay, and I asked you, I guess, the same question. What team from the first four out or next four out? Noah, what from the first four out and next four out, which one looks the most enticing? You got Texas, Ohio State, Boise State, Colorado State, and then Dayton, Wake Forest, UC Irvine, Villanova. Wake Forest plays North Carolina today. Yeah, today, and I would say I wouldn't be surprised if they either switch spots or kind of like switch around because both teams are on the bubble, and I feel like the best way to do it is if a bubble team beats another bubble, you guys switch spots.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Colorado State has a chance to jump up, obviously playing in the Mountain West. Let's see where they're at. They beat Boise State like a week ago, so obviously it wasn't Mountain West tournament, but it looks like they have Nevada tonight. I think if they go and win, obviously they'll be in, but I really think they can do that. It's something that they can accomplish. I don't think they can lose tonight against Nevada, though, and I don't think they'll make it if they do. But Ohio State, I think, obviously is taken out. Britton, like you said, I don't know that Texas has a real chance. So really for me, it's a battle between Boise State and Colorado State. Whoever can win the Mountain West from that first four out, I think will get in, obviously. But I don't think one of them gets an at-large bid unless both of them make it. I'm not exactly sure how that bracket's set up. The next four out, I don't know. That's tough. I know Dayton, they've beaten VCU later in the season a while ago on the road, so they could have a chance to make some noise, but it's a little too far out for them, I think. But they're right there on that next four out, so definitely want to watch them as well.
Yeah, I think for me, the team that I'm looking at that could potentially, if they can make a run, is Villanova. They play UConn tonight, 8:30 on FS1. And I think it's just because they have such a good lineup. Eric Dixon, who was in the running for National Player of the Year, like in the 5-6 spot. So he wasn't that high up, but he's a really good player. Jameer Brickus, also on that Wildcat team. I think this Villanova team, they have struggled late, especially dropping to Providence, UConn, and Georgetown early or late in the regular season. Those games did hurt them, but they got big wins. They beat Marquette pretty handedly. And I think this is a team that if they can win in their Big East tournament, right now they're sitting at the 6th spot in the conference standings. I'm not for sure what their actual ranking is in that conference tournament game, but it's going to be a good game, especially against UConn. If they can get this win, I think it could propel them up into the next 4 in, and then potentially just hoping to get into that bubble of they get a at-large bid.
But I think the thing with these next 4 out teams, Dayton, Wake, UC Irvine, and Villanova, all of those teams need to probably make their conference tournament championship to get in. And then if you're there, you might as well go win the tournament. So I think for those 4 teams, you're on the bubble technically, yes, but I think the goal should be to win the conference, especially UC Irvine. They have a bye all the way to the semifinals. So their goal is to win 2 games. But you want to talk bubble battles, how about tonight? It's Boise State, San Diego State. That could very easily be a win and in, losing out situation. Before we kind of preview some conference tournaments the next couple of days, let's talk mid-majors once again. We've given you guys some of our sleepers from the last couple of weeks, but coming up there's going to be some major conference tournaments. Today, actually, I think they get the action started at 10 or 10:30. Let's see, it's 10 a.m. local time. Bowling Green and Akron, one of Ian Nelson's sleeper. Akron's 25-6. They ran through the MAC, only losing 1 game. So they'll get things started. You're also going to see both UC Irvine and UC San Diego start off their Big West tournament play in just a couple of days. Conference USA, teams like Liberty, Middle Tennessee are in contention to make the tournament. So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of mid-major action that I think kind of gets overshadowed by some other conference tournaments, but just keep an eye out.
Yeah, and then I think another big game and there's a lot of big games early today. You got Duke, Georgia Tech, just because it's Duke, that's going to be a big game to watch. Butler, St. John's, Indiana, Oregon, that one's going to be a good one. And I think the one that we'll talk about a little bit more maybe later is Iowa State, BYU, the rematch from the end of the regular season. That tips off at 11:30 local time here because it's in Kansas City. But, yeah, there's a lot of good games, and quite a few have finalized, quite a few conferences, a lot of them mid-majors. And I'm going to hand this over to you, Britton. What automatic qualifier looks the best to you? March Madness, they have a list of all of them. You could pass over to Noah, too. Which one looks the most also enticing to you? We've talked about the bubble, but there's a lot of good teams. We've seen Lipscomb, Drake, those teams. What one looks the best to you in your eyes?
Yeah, we've discussed teams like Lipscomb, High Point, Drake, as you said several times here. McNeese gets in. I'm not high on McNeese, so I'll give you 2 teams kind of that qualified since Monday. Troy beat Arkansas State, Noah and I's pick to win that conference tournament. I'm high on Troy. Tatum Connerway's the Sun Belt Player of the Year. They probably will be a 14, so a little bit underseeded. They could beat a 3 seed. I really am confident in that. And then UNC Wilmington, the Seahawks, actually beat the 12 seed in their conference, Delaware, in the conference championship. But Donovan Newby's their best player. He had 24 in the semifinals to beat Charleston. So I think UNC Wilmington, they've been in the tournament in recent years, and they can also be dangerous as well as Troy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's look at this. Yeah, no, I'm on Troy just because they beat Arkansas State, right? And even though Arkansas State was the 4 seed, I had picked them to win it. But I don't know who I'll pick. I hate that Gonzaga is put in as they're considered mid-major. But I will say I'm
That's
looking.
just the list of everybody because Big 12 will be put in there once it qualifies because that's all 31 of the conference championship games.
I think I'll get to this in my sleeper for mid-major, but High Point has been one that I've still been high on, obviously, and Lipscomb maybe if they come out and shoot well. But, yeah, I'd say Troy, Lipscomb, and High Point are my sleepers. But I'm also going to be looking at Big West play tonight. I think it's quarterfinals of UC Santa Barbara and Cal State Northridge. So 2 teams that are obviously looking to make it, and I don't know who I'll take in that one. I'm just going to have to watch and see how it plays out, honestly.
those are two candidates, I think, that could potentially upset the two top dogs, UCSD and UC Irvine. But now let's get into some conference tournaments. Let's start in the Big 12. There's 4 quarterfinals today, and they all look very appeasing, except for maybe that 116 quarterfinal. Ian Sleeper, the Colorado Buffs, SCO Buffs, Tad Boyle has his team. They beat TCU, the 9 seed. They beat 8 seed West Virginia. And now I think it's the first 1-16 game in a conference tournament ever. So that'll be interesting to watch. But it gets started, as you mentioned, Ian, Iowa State, BYU. At 11:30, the Cyclones desperately looking, I think, for revenge against a BYU team that won in Hilton just last week on March 4th. Injuries are a huge concern with this team. Keyshawn Gilbert tried to play through a groin injury against Cincinnati. He left. I don't think he's going to play in this one. I don't think he should play in this one. Taman Lipsey also left the game. I think TJ Otzelberger did say that he expects Lipsey to be healthy for this one. But I want to ask you guys a question. How important is this game and this tournament to you guys as Iowa State fans, or would you rather just have TJ rest his guys for the NCAA tournament?
I would love, as an Iowa State fan, and I love watching them make it all the way to the Big 12 tournament. My only issue, and it's something that actually hasn't been a concern for Iowa State in years past, is injuries. Normally they're one of the healthier teams in the conference. Last year, they never struggled, and they went all the way through and just swamped on Houston in that finals game last year. This year, they really have struggled, especially early, losing Milan. He came back, and then losing Gilbert and Curtis Jones and also Lipsey now. I think the best case scenario, because, of course, I would rather have them go deep in the tournament of March Madness than the Big 12, so I do think that he should rest as much as he can of his guys, because I would rather see Elite Eight Final Four play than a Big 12 tournament where they could easily lose to Texas Tech again or Houston in the semifinals.
Right. That's why you have to look at this game in particular, is because I'm going to say it, and I really hope I'm not wrong, but they're most likely playing the 1 seed Houston in the semis if they can get past BYU. So is it really that worth it to win this game and end up losing to the 1 seed Houston in the semis? I don't know. Me personally, I don't think Keyshawn Gilbert should have played at all yesterday. He rested against K-State. He probably could have rested against Cincinnati, and it still would have been a comfortable win. They won by 20 with him, so imagine what they could do without him. Obviously, he rested second half, but Lipsey's been battling with the thumb all year, so we know he's not 100%, and that groin injury is really still, tearing away and eating at Keyshawn Gilbert, and it's not making him play at 100%. So I really think I got BYU by 5 or 6, honestly, and we'll see how it goes. But I will say, I don't know if, obviously, you want the guys to rest to get healthy, but I feel like too much rest can also be an issue just because, I don't know, everyone else is going to be coming in off these conference tournaments mostly hot. So if Iowa State can make a push through, win the Big 12, and be hot, I think that also really benefits them. So I'm torn, but I am going to pick BYU to win this one. But yeah, I think best case scenario is to just play it out and not try and go all out with the win just because of the outlook on the potential matchup next.
And I think the thing that weighs on the mind of all Cyclone fans is the fact that we've made deep runs in the Big 12 tournament almost every single year that we're an NCAA tournament team, and then that hasn't led to success. So maybe you switch it up. You lose here in the quarterfinals to BYU. Obviously, they're going to try to win it. But if they lose here, maybe that's going to be a better thing. They're still probably going to stay on the 3 line, but even if you drop to a 4, it's not the end of the world by any means. But the other 2 quarterfinals in the Big 12, the 2 at night, Baylor, Texas Tech, and Kansas, Arizona, these look like some good matchups. Kansas barely escaped UCF. I was watching that game after the Valley game when I got home. They won in overtime by 4 points. I think Arizona handles Kansas today on a neutral floor. And then Baylor trying to move up a couple seed lines. They're probably at a 10 right now. A win over Texas Tech would work wonders for the Bears.
Yeah, and I was looking at that Kansas UCF score early, and I thought once they hit the second half that they had locked up the game. They were up by like 10, almost 20 at one point in that game. And I looked back late as I was going to bed, and I saw that Kansas only won by 4, and that UCF team gave them some struggles. And I really don't see Kansas moving much farther. And let's remember from like a month ago when I did my hot takes for college basketball, I said that Kansas wasn't going to go that far. And although they're going to make the tournament, which I did say they weren't, that was a poor choice off of my part, but I still don't think they're making it that far in the tournament, let alone the Big 12 or the Big Dance, because I just don't like how they play. They haven't played their strongest basketball since really ever, maybe the middle part of the regular season once they started Big 12 regular season play. Since that point, they just haven't looked the best. And so I'm with you, Brandon. I think it's going to be in Arizona, and I think Texas Tech is going to move on. Arizona, Texas Tech, and I'll be a homer. Give me Iowa State and Houston in the semifinals. But I would love to see Buffalo win. I would love to see Colorado and the Buffaloes win. It would make me so happy to watch them win the 16 seed. Let's remember, I am the upset guy. So
Ian self-proclaimed himself as the upset guy. And
you called me the upset guy. You called me the underdog.
It's because you picked Stetson over UConn.
No, I didn't pick Stetson over UConn. I said they would keep it close, and then UConn beat them by 30. Anyway, Noah, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I just want to get to quick picks of ACC, Big 12, and SEC. I think I'm going to say Duke, and if that's good, we can move on to the next one. Is it Duke all-rounder? Obviously, watch out for Clemson. I think Clemson will make it to the championship. I don't think they get past Duke on a neutral floor, though.
I'll pick Duke, but the Clemson-Louisville semifinal is the game.
Yeah, Duke.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, Big 12 now. Honestly, looking at what it could be, looking at it, I think Baylor can get to the chip game if they beat Tech. But honestly, I think Tech goes and makes a little run, and we see a nice little Tech-Houston championship game, and I'm honestly going to take Houston to win it.
I have a lot more confidence in Texas Tech to advance farther in the NCAA tournament than Arizona, but I actually think Arizona is going to beat Texas Tech in the semifinals, and then they're probably going to play Houston. I really didn't want to say Houston wins the Big 12 tournament, so I'll just say Arizona wins it. Maybe not a popular pick, but I'll go the Wildcats.
Give me Houston. I think they're going to come back from last year because they just did not look good in that Big 12 championship game, and I think they want to respond to that criticism of how bad they looked. And although they made it far and they responded in the tournament, I think they would like to really respond in the Big 12 tournament and lock up the fact that they've won the regular season Big 12 title. I think they want to win the postseason one and just cement themselves as the best team in the Big 12 currently this year. And so I'm saying Houston is my Big 12 championship pick.
Whoa.
I
Almost
did
a
not.
national
I almost said
champion
national.
pick over
Whoa.
there.
I mixed it up. No,
Ian exposed.
No. Okay, moving on. SEC. Right now they're in the second round of gameplay. There's not many great games. I think the one that I'm looking at the most is probably I'm liking the Texas A&M Texas one. It's a rivalry game, and I think Texas could keep it close. And Texas A&M, they're still trying to move up some spots in the tier. I'm not for sure where they're at, but I think they're at like a 6 or something seed.
A&M is a 3 seed.
3 seed. Well, they're going to try to keep themselves in that 3 seed. They don't want to lose too early. And potentially, like all the 3 seeds, they're trying to play for that 2 spot that could open up. So
who do you got winning the SEC, Ian?
One-word answer.
Alabama.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we're probably going to get a Florida-Alabama semi, so I don't think Auburn wins it. I honestly don't know if they make it to the championship game. I'm going to say Florida.
I'll spoil it right now. Florida's my national championship pick, so I don't know if I want to take them to win the SEC tournament too. I don't think it's going to be Auburn, though. Maybe like Tennessee. I'm not confident in Tennessee whatsoever, but I guess I'll go Alabama as well, Ian, but not loving that pick. Now let's get to the Big Ten. I'll go Michigan State to continue to dominate that conference.
I got Michigan State.
I'll go Michigan State also to keep it around. And another thing for the Big Ten and kind of just right here in the state, Iowa, they did move on. They, like you mentioned, Britton, they beat Ohio State. They play again tonight-ish, 5:30 p.m. against Illinois. That one's going to be a good one because Illinois, they're also trying to just continue moving up. And they kind of have struggled getting swamped by Duke, and they still want to prove themselves as top-tier teams. And Iowa, they're just trying to play spoiler, bubble popper, whatever you want to call it, and potentially have a chance at making the bubble. I don't know. I think Iowa's just like out.
Yeah, no, Iowa has no chance.
Okay.
That'll be interesting to see if they can beat Illinois, but we're in a bracket pool. We have it set. We're actually not going to be able to give you guys picks once the bracket's out. We'll be on spring break, and we'll come back after the first and second round. So before we go, I kind of wanted to – I don't want to give my Final Four picks because I know Ian's going to copy it.
No.
And I'm not –
No, because we'll come back for the Sweet 16, and we can share what our picks are.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking to pick Final Four. I think maybe just like a sleeper.
Yeah.
You want to do a sleeper? 4 through 9?
That works. I'm looking through it. Clemson's not even a sleeper anymore. They were my answer like a month ago, but at this point, I don't think you can say them. People like Gonzaga, I don't, to be quite honest. I'm looking at maybe this 8-9 game in the Midwest that Lenardi predicts. Memphis and Georgia. I think the winner of that game would give Houston a good shot. And Memphis is underseeded, I think, at an 8. That's a little bit disrespectful. And I think they could have a good shot at beating a 1 second round.
Well, my sleeper, I guess they're also not a sleeper much anyway. I've been high on them since bracketology came out. It was Oregon. I like them because they started off as an 8-9 seed, and now they're all the way up to a 5 seed. Playing UC San Diego is what Lenardi's picking in that South bracket at Atlanta. Even though they're a 5 seed, I'm still going to call them a sleeper. I like them, and I think they play some great basketball. So give me Oregon. Out of the Big Ten, they're another team that can make it far in their conference championship, but we all picked Michigan State.
Yeah, depending on what UCLA does, I think they have a realistic chance at getting to the Sweet 16. So my pick was going to be Clemson, but I'm really hoping that most people don't take them super far because I'm actually really high on that team. So I'm going to just say UCLA. I think they're top 3 most talented team in the Big Ten. They got a nice little easy path to the Sweet 16. I think they can coast there.
Yeah, Ian, never doubt Dana Altman in March. I kind of like that Oregon pick. They could for sure make another prime Oregon Duck run in March Madness. But I think that's going to do it for our show this morning. Stay tuned because in just about, 10 minutes or so, we'll have a Zay Robinson interview, not on this show, on the next one. So stay tuned here on 88.7 KWDM. And everybody, thank you for listening and have a great spring break.